What is going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, bringing you another rendition of this week's top Pokemon card auctions of the week recap. Folks, we saw an amazing week of auctions, as we always do. We saw another graded Pikachu Illustrator card come by. We saw several sealed vintage booster boxes come by. Folks, I'm so glad you tuned in today, and you picked a great day to watch, because today's auction recap sponsor and the sponsor of this week's giveaway is none other than lowpopping.market. Lowpopping.market, as you probably already know, is an Instagram page of high-end card dealers that buy and sell high-end Pokemon cards. So if you are a collector of PSA, BGS, or CGC graded cards, this is the place for you. And they also offer trades on all of their inventory. And this week, folks, Low Popping is giving away a BGS 10 Black Label 25th Anniversary Pikachu card to one lucky recipient. This is a very desirable card that has been selling week after week for over $200 in auction. So to be entered into this giveaway, you have to go to Low Popping's Discord. I will link that in the description of this video. And from there, just follow the instructions to be entered in for a chance to win this beautiful card. So do yourself a big favor, go check out lowpopping.market on Instagram, check out all of the grails they have available, and go check out their Discord to see how you can enter in for that giveaway. Alright folks, we saw several amazing auctions spanning across all kinds of different auction platforms. Let's get started on eBay, starting off with this Charizard EX from Obsidian Flames that in PSA 10 is raking in some big numbers, it seems. This week, this copy sold for about $207, and it's not usual for a regular EX card to sell for this much, but you got the Charizard tax on it, so there you go. Up next, we saw 5 PSA 10 Japanese Charizard V cards from Starbirth that sold for $1,163 US. So, very nice. And then up next, we have several fairly inexpensive EX cards from the XY era. Here we have a Manaphy EX full art from Breakpoint in PSA 10 that only sold for $31. We also saw this Ho-Oh EX from Breakpoint that sold for $81 as a PSA 10. Also from Breakpoint was this full art Espeon that sold for $162. And then from Fates Collide, we saw this full art Glaceon EX that sold for $120. From Breakthrough Set, we saw this Mega Mewtwo EX sold for $243, and then we saw this Lugia EX from Ancient Origins that sold for $390. Now you got to keep in mind, folks, when you see the prices of these XY full art cards, that these were the chase cards in these sets. Back then, there weren't rainbow rares, there weren't alt art cards, so these were the hits right here, and I do believe that it was easier to pull these from boxes. The pull rates were much higher for these particular cards, so that's why you're probably seeing a lower price point. Also, these cards weren't as popular as the cards from like Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, so there you go. Before we get into some very interesting black and white card sales, here is a BGS 10 Black Label Team Skull Grunt Pikachu card that sold for $5,700 this week. Up next, from Black and White Legendary Treasures, we saw a regular Darkrai EX in PSA 10 that sold for $150. But that wasn't the interesting Darkrai sale, it was this one right here, the full art Darkrai EX from Dark Explorers in PSA 10 that sold for an even $2,000 this week. Yeah. From Black and White Legendary Treasures, here's a Charizard Holo that sold for $690. From Boundaries Crossed, here's a Charizard that sold for $809. And then we saw the Charizard from Diamond and Pearl Secret Wonders that sold for $2,550. Here is another Suicune from Call of Legends. We saw 2 come by in the past month. This is the third. This one sold as a Gem Mint 10 for $1,325. And to finish off the graded cards on eBay, here is a Japanese promo of the shiny Ho-Oh in PSA 10 that sold for a staggering $5,433, along with this Lugia, also in PSA 10, that sold for $8,500. Up next, we saw a slew of vintage booster boxes on eBay. We usually don't see vintage booster boxes on eBay sell much anymore. They usually go through an auction platform where they can open them up and verify them, so this was interesting to me. We have an unlimited fossil booster box sold for $6,406, while the first edition box sold for $9,466. Here's an unlimited jungle booster box that sold for $6,800, along with this unlimited Team Rocket box that sold for $7,466. And the first edition box box here that looks like it got put through the dryer, I think. It is definitely banged up, and it sold for $11,366. While this not so banged up first edition rocket box sold for $12,286. Here we saw a sealed base 2 booster box that sold for $8,566. Here we have a sealed Majestic Dawn booster box from Diamond and Pearl that sold for $5,400, along with this Diamond and Pearl Secret Wonders booster box that sold for $6,100, along with this Stormfront booster box that sold for $6,400. And let's not forget this Black and White Plasma Storm booster box that sold for $5,755. Alright, on to this week's PWCC auction block. We saw several bangers come by. Here is an Espeon Prime, then PSA 10 that sold for $1,320, along with this Umbreon Prime that sold for $1,530. Speaking of Umbreon, here is an unlimited Holo Umbreon from Neo Discovery that sold as a PSA 10 for $1,560. From EX Dragon Frontiers, here's a Gardevoir EX in PSA 10 that sold for $1,830, along with this Dragonite EX, also from Dragon Frontiers, that sold for $2,040. Here from EX Deoxys, we saw this Rayquaza EX that sold for $1,890. And then here is a PSA 9 2012 Japanese promo Rayquaza that sold for $3,240. Up next, we have a 1997 Japanese Card-Ass Prism Charizard card that sold for $3,240. From Burning Shadows, we saw this Rainbow Rare Charizard GX make a little bit of a comeback this week, selling for $3,720, which is the most we've seen it sell for in a long time. Here we saw a CGC10 Gem Mint Crystal Lugia, sold for $4,080. And then we saw a couple of Art Academy Pikachus. This one is a PSA 10 that sold for $7,200. We saw this Japanese Design Contest promo Arceus card that sold as a PSA 7 for $8,400. And then lastly, we saw this PSA 10 Art Academy Pikachu card that sold for a staggering 13,800 big ones. From the Team Rocket special case, we saw a Giovanni Scheme card in PSA 10 that sold for $9,600, along with this promo Full Art Team Rocket card that sold as a PSA 10 for $12,200. And then lastly, on PWCC, we saw this unbelievable sale of the first edition holographic Pichu from Neo Genesis that sold for $10,200. This, folks, is a card you don't see come by ever, especially in auction. So yeah, it is the first time we see Pichu. It's the first time we see a baby Pokemon. It's a PSA 10. Yeah, very low pop. Therefore, the gigantic price tag. Up next, we saw numerous CGC 10 sales on Heritage auctions. Let's go through the very notable ones. Here we saw a Card-Ass CGC 10 Charizard card that sold for $3,750. Here we have a Cosmos Holo Test Print Base Set Charizard in CGC 8 condition that sold for $18,750. Also from base set, we saw this Japanese no rarity symbol Ninetales Holo in CGC 10 that sold for $3,125. And then we saw a CGC 10 no rarity symbol Japanese base set Charizard that sold for $57,500. And the comparison between this CGC 10 and a PSA 10, the last PSA 10 that sold was for like $324,000, so about 5.5 times as much as a CGC 10 Gem Mint example. We also saw numerous first edition holos from base set in CGC 10. Here's a Chansey that sold for $5,875. The Clefairy sold for $3,500. Gyarados sold for $2,750. Hitmonchan sold for $3,625. Raichu here sold for $3,500. Venusaur sold for $5,500, while Blastoise sold for $7,187. And then we saw yet again another first edition base set Zard in CGC 10, and it sold for $41,250 this week. But that's not all, folks. We saw several notable cards from the Neo series. Here's a CGC 10 Gem Mint Meganium number 10 that sold for $1,437. Here we saw Pichu yet again, but this one here is a CGC 10 Gem Mint, sold for $3,750. Here we saw another CGC 10 Slowking that sold for $2,250. And then we saw this CGC 10 First Edition Typhlosion 17 that sold for $2,875. And then lastly, we saw this unlimited Lugia holo in CGC10 that sold for an even $3K. Couple of awesome cards from Neo Revelation. Here's a first edition Ampharos in CGC10 that sold for $2,375. The Entei here sold for $1,625, while Houndoom sold for $1,500. Here we saw the first edition Suicune that sold for $3,125. A couple of Shining cards. Here's a CGC10 first edition Shining Mewtwo that sold for $2,625. Along with this unlimited Shining Charizard that sold for $5,125. Here from Southern Islands, we saw this reverse holo Mew in CGC10 that sold for 3,250 big ones. We also saw this CGC10 Tyranitar holo from Aquapolis that sold for $1,375. And then here from Aquapolis, we saw this Crystal Nidoking that sold for $1,375 as well. And then lastly, from the E-Series, we saw this Crystal Charizard in CGC10 that sold for $9,375. Up next, we saw a Gold Star Trico that sold for $2,750. Here we have from EX Emerald a Milotic EX that sold for $2,125. Here's a Tyranitar EX from Unseen Forces, sold for $1,500, along with the Celebi EX, also from Unseen Forces, sold for $2,062. Here we have a CGC10 Pristine Gold Star Groudon from EX Delta Species that sold for $5,250. And then we saw a CGC10 Gem Mint Gold Star Mewtwo that sold for $2,625. Here we saw the CGC10 Gold Star Charizard sold for $8,750, along with this 15th anniversary premium set Reshiram Full Art card that got the CGC10 and sold for $2,500 this week. And then getting down to the final three auctions, these are some big time numbers, folks. We have a CGC10 unnumbered Tropical Wind promo card that sold for $21,250. And then we saw this CGC10 Pristine #1 Trainer Tropical Mega Battle promo card that sold for $48,125. And then the auction of the week has to go to this CGC10 Gem Mint Pikachu Illustrator card that sold this week for $495,000. So I'm not sure if there are any CGC10 Pristine examples of this card, but if you compare this Gem Mint card to a PSA 10 Gem Mint card, the PSA 10, as far as we know, with the only sale that's ever happened, sells for over 10 times as much as this one. What do you all think of that? What do you think of the auctions this week? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Don't forget to go enter into that giveaway in the description below. Go follow Low Popping on his Discord. The instructions will be on there. Good luck to you. Let me know what you think of the video. That's all I got. I'll catch you all in my next one.